Ese.
And with Valentine Ohu.
And we have our analysts with us in the studio. First, we have Gbolahan. Morning, Gbolahan.
Good morning, Ayo. Good morning, Valentine. And good morning,
Good
Lagos.
morning, sir.
Good morning. And of course, we have Deveo Okorie. Good morning, Deveo.
Good morning, Lagos. Cool. Ministerial Super Eagles.
All right.
Dream team.
So you can
Yes, sir.
find Gbolahan on Twitter at Mr. Gquest and Deveo at Deveo Okorie on both on Twitter. And you can find us collectively at Smooth 91 FM on Twitter. Send your
Yes.
comments using the hashtag Freshly Pressed 91.
All right, WhatsApp number is 0809-444-0981. Please send your messages there. We're streaming live on YouTube. Please subscribe. Just type Smooth 91 FM Lagos on the YouTube panel and you find us. Subscribe and follow the train. You can also leave a comment on there.
All right, no surprises here. Our first story, the focus is on the ministerial list. Now, according to this Punch News headline, nominees incompetent, lack fresh ideas. Now, this is not from us, it's from PDP, opposition party, ASU, and of course TMG. They have criticized the list of 43 ministerial nominees sent to the House, sent to the Senate President by President Muhammadu Buhari. Out of the 43 ministerial nominees, 14 are returning ministers and 29 are new appointees. So, Devo, please take us through the story.
Right. Finally, we have our top 40. How many of them?
Three.
Top 43. Those who are playing front wing, middle, and defense. It's long awaited, and Nigerians had been wondering how far, how long, but the presidency has acted on what he said. And just to let you know, the Senate also in this excitement has extended their recess or postponed it by 1 week to ensure that they do the full screening and then we have all of them brought into active work. Now, just a quick rundown of the statistics for those that don't know. 14 ministers are from the former cabinet. He dropped 17. Then he added 29 new appointees. Now, some of the names that we know: Fashola, Lai Mohammed, Timi Silva, Godwin Oyema, and then some of the new names: Odo Odoma, Akpabio, Abubakar Buhari, Solomon Dalong. Those were some of those that were dropped. Then new names like, Akpabio, new Festus Kiyamo, Senator Lauren Mibe Mamora. Okay, now I'm sure most people have seen the list. Now, in terms of demographics, okay, the average age of ministers was about 60, so we're not really seeing a lot of youth involved. Now, the president did say that he would choose those who he knows, right? So he normally chooses people who are around his age brackets. Yeah, we love our elderly, don't we? Now, only about seven women were among the ministerial list, which is about 16% of the whole 43. That's falls short of the expected medium. We're trying to reach about 30%, if not 50-50 gender parity. Our women, we still have a long way to go in this country. Then the most part was these are ministers without portfolio. The list came without portfolios. A lot of them, about 7 of them, were ex-governors, and this is the question that many are having. Now, there were many reviews from different ends. The PDP said that they were an incompetent list. We're not surprised about that. ASU was saying that the list lacked innovation. NECA, that's the Employees Council, was saying that these were recycled names. Now, what say you Nigerians? Because this is the tag team that will take on the next level mandates. But I have a few things to say because I know there's more discontent in the air than there is cheer. The truth is this. I hope that the presidency, no, I should not hope. Hope is not what you bank on. In the last administration, many of the ministers were not able to deliver on their mandates to the extent that the presidency was not always available and he didn't give them much room. I mean, we used to hear things that they used to sign up in long lines just to see the presidency. At the end of the day, many things hung. This time round, I wasn't surprised that he took the number of days that he took to release the list. And I have to say this, that I will no longer have issues with the presidency. Nigerians must live with the consequences of their choices. The presidency has not lied. He has told you. He has always been truthful. He has actually basically always told you what he will do. Now, if this is what we are satisfied with, we made a vote. And since Nigerians in bulk voted for him, then we will live consequences of our actions.
Well, that shouldn't be the attitude, should it? I mean,
It shouldn't, but the truth is this. I have to tell you, I've checked it. The presidency has been forthright in practically every scenario.
So when you say forthright, with regards to his choice of the
Yes.
core team that we
This core team are all politicians.
Yes.
Many people are expecting for technocrats to come
Yes,
on board.
yes.
But the truth is, we have to understand that there seems to be a disconnect between politicians and the private sector or the technocrats. If you don't play the game, or if you don't join them when it's required, you're going to find it hard at the end of the day to be part of that team. Even whether they said, oh, they have a mandate and they need people to deliver on
Yes.
it, what he's simply doing is he's working with people who he believes have been loyal to him, who have worked with him, who he can go to sleep. Remember, he's extended in his years. He doesn't need stress. He doesn't need to be answering queries on a daily
All right.
basis.
So now, on a scale of 1 to 10, just to wrap this up, how confident are you of this new list?
Well, I mean, I'll sum it up like this: slow people, slow nation. This same list of recycled people who we know the antecedents, and we also know the president's antecedents. I think the next level is not going as far as we expected.
All right. Thank you very much. Let's take
Prince here
some comments.
says on WhatsApp, when you guys say technocrats, which of the people nominated is not a professional in their field and did not excel in their area? Your analysts or the company has already stated their biases, or because your favorite people are not on the list.
No.
Who's a technocrat? So politicians should do the dirty job and someone else come and weep. Do we know Obi El Rufai others before the appointment?
Actually, yes, they had a good track record in terms of their work delivery.
And then Vincent says from Lekki, we cannot justify the long wait with the ministerial list. Nigeria is in for a shock. The government is full of breaking bad records in Nigeria. Ministerial position is now a reward system. Where are the technocrats?
Well, that's a big question that came up yesterday, but I'm sure
The technocrats were missing during election. That's the problem here. The technocrats, where were they? Lagos with 8 million registered voters, only 1 million short came out. Technocrats, tell me where you are.
All right, thank you very much, Devo. I will come to you, Bola. Devo can catch a breath over that. Out of school children, UBEC, that's the University Basic Education Commission, has signed a memorandum of understanding with the Commonwealth of Learning in Canada on open schooling initiative. This report is from Premium Times. Please, let's say, we know Nigeria has the largest number of out-of-school children in the world. So please take us through the story.
Yes, well, in 2015, UNICEF conducted a report, and then they conducted research, and then found out that we had about 13.5 million children who were out of school. Although this figure is now being contested by UBEC, which is the Universal Basic Education Commission, as at last year, they said they've done their own research, and they found out that those numbers have dropped from 13.5 million now, and we're now looking at 10.1. But nevertheless, 10.1 million children, or 13.5 million out of school children, is still an alarming figure, and we stand as one of the highest out of school children in the world. So what has the government been putting in place to ensure that we have these figures reduced? Well, I mean, this current administration are putting measures. They've come up with this school feeding program. In some other states as well, UNICEF has also come forward with a conditional cash transfer of about 24,000 naira being paid to the mothers to encourage children to go to school. These are done in states such as Katsina, Kebbi, Sokoto, and Zamfara. So right now, at the moment, we now have another program that is being done in conjunction with the Commonwealth of Learning of Canada, which is Open Schooling Initiative. And the idea behind that is that it's no longer going to be conventional children going to school to learn about addition and subtraction and English. To be learning now is skills that are of benefit to them. And I take, for example, such scheme that was done in Trinidad and Tobago, where they had a farming community, and the children in that farming community were taught how to make fishing nets, how to fish, you know, things that were relevant to their community. Certain schemes have been done all across the world. We have about 25 out of the 53 Commonwealth states or countries that have actually carried out such open learning schemes, and it has really helped in reducing the level of out of school children. So we're waiting to see the impact of this. The one thing that I found funny or found a bit unusual is that this program was meant to have commenced in 2019, we're in July 2019. Now we're actually at the end of July 2019. So why are we just finding out about this? We should actually be learning about the output or measures that are being put in place at the moment now.
Yes.
So
All right. Just a few things also to clarify with regards to the open school initiative. It's done in some countries, like you already mentioned,
Yes.
but India, because in terms of our numbers and people who have children who have little or no access to education. So the open school system is a system which is free of regular school attendance, time-bound programs. So you're able to, particularly for those who are not able to get physically to school, and with the insurgents, which is said to have been responsible for raising the numbers to 13.5 million in 2015, this hopefully should address that. So they have flexibility to choose program independent of their age, and flexibility of not attending classes, so they don't have to go to the four walls of a school room. But we'll see how that plays out.
We just hope that it works out eventually, because we know the importance of having our children going to school. We know the economic benefits and the security challenges that we face if later on in life these children turn out to be miscreant or not beneficial to the society. So it's important. Education is very important, and we have to do whatever we can to minimize the number of out of school children.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Gbolahan. Deveo, I'll come back to you for this on visa issues. So the US imposes visa ban on people suspected of undermining Nigeria's democracy. This day has this update. I call it an update because before the elections or during the electioneering, we had several reports about the US and the UK talking about banning people who were seen to be involved in election violence or in election malpractice. Now they're reinforcing that, and the report has this new story. Can you please take us through this?
Well, basically, it's actually the United States trying to celebrate our 20 years return to democracy. What they've said that they have been in support of the Nigeria's democratic growth, and that they would everything in their power to see it strengthened. To that extent, this year, which marks the 20th year, they would be on notification from the Secretary of State imposing visa restrictions on Nigerians believed to be responsible or complicit in undermining democracy in Nigeria. These individuals have operated with impunity at the expense of the Nigerian people and undermined democratic principles and human rights, in quotes. Now, basically, this is only support from another nation saying that those who have not helped you grow in democratic ways, those who have acted anti-democratically in terms of enforcing all forms of other notions, that they would ban them from more or less give them restrictions on coming to America. Now, on the surface, it seems like something nice that they're supporting us, but let me be factual with you. This ban is a slap on our sovereign integrity, and what I mean by that is that if another country deems the coming to their country as punishment for being violent in our country, come on, how low can we really go? A trip to America, there are 150 other countries you can go to, and just the lack of going there, that's how low we have gotten to, that they look at us, that if they restrict, if they restrict,
America
so
is it
not going to
a
America.
punishment from the other man to us, or we imposed it, we did it to ourselves? Because we know most of this our politicians,
they're also aware. Yes, they're always tripping. Is taking the first flight out, their investments, the
connected with corruption as well. The fight against corruption, seeing that most of the funds are taken abroad for investment purposes and purchase of property.
Well, here corruption is not exactly what they did. Yes, to end corruption, they said a government stated commitment to end corruption and strengthen democracy. So, like I said, they're doing this is in a bid to celebrate a democratic institution with us. So. If you can't go to America, and I'm just giving them a tip, or maybe you can try Ghana or Shobo, or you can try Gabon next door.
Miriam is not excited in Lekki about the list, and nothing good can come from this bunch, she says. Mr. President has been a monumental. Interesting, and to think I rooted for him, sad. She's disappointed that she's not mincing words.
She's getting woke at a very late hour.
Imo from Ikeja says, when you see a list like this, you already know what to expect from the administration. Another 3 years plus of stagnancy and retrogression.
I think we need to be a little bit, I understand people come from it for this, but we need to be a little bit more positive and optimistic. Because the truth is
you have reason.
Yes, if you look at the list, list, yes, there's some names that we're not quite excited about, but there are also some names that we must celebrate. And the fact that from the, well, I'm so shocked, but I have to stand.
To be praised, Sylvia.
No,
So-
that's why I said there's some names that we're not excited about. But there's some people who have come back again who did well in the first term, and there's some people who didn't do quite well who have been dropped. So just put it out there. It's not all doom and gloom.
But I hope you also put into fact that the Fashola that we all knew that was sterling when he was a governor,
Yes.
it was a different level of delivery and performance when he entered the federal level.
All right.
And somebody
Okay.
noted that Dalong was not on the list. I'm
Yes.
wondering who the next sports minister will be.
Okay, let's go on to our next story. Diva, I'll stay with you. Reps divided over calls to declare Shiite terrorist group. So members of the House of Representatives yesterday disagreed over the call to declare the IMN, Islamic Movement of Nigeria, also known as Shiite, led by El Zakzaki, as a terrorist group and declare it unlawful in the country.
Well, this was what's his name? The APC Kano Rep Honorable Mohammed Shamsuddin Bello. He moved a motion that that the House needed to take a very strict look at the activities of IMN. We know them as IMN, the Islamic Movement of Nigeria. That's the body that represents the Shiites within the country, and that based on their recent actions, that's the various protests that they've had within the country, which ended up causing some level of calamity and violence in Abuja, that this was going to amount to terrorism at the end of the day, and that the police appeared incapable of taming the violence within the past few days, and that under the law, that was the Terrorism Prevention Act, that they should be declared an unlawful assembly, and that at a certain point, if we're not prevented, that they would likely arm themselves and become another IPOB Boko Haram. Well, eventually on this motion, many of the reps were divided. What I'll have to say to this is, I think in the history of proscription of various bodies, there has been some level of double standard. And why I say so, in Boko Haram, it did take a while. Eventually, by the time the attacks increased across board, Boko Haram was proscribed. Now, obviously, Boko Haram amounted to death and violence. In the case of IPOB, they were largely unarmed. And the issue with IPOB was on the notion of treason, whereby they wanted to more or less, that was a Biafran issue. And it beggars of how this anti-terrorism act is being implemented. And then the case of which many people are aware of is the issue of the herdsmen, the killer herdsmen. Now, the killer herdsmen have killed even more people than Boko Haram, yet they have not been named, yet they have not been proscribed, yet the government hasn't taken steps to them. So we seem to have a particular issue with why are you now reacting to the now who have been protesting recently. And we know, yes, there has been a history of attacks with them, with the military, way back in Kaduna when they were operating on their own, and even before when they were friends with government and were government to themselves.
So maybe to interject at the part where you mentioned that the herdsmen, nothing has been done to curtail their trend or their actions.
No, to identify them as terrorists.
Exactly.
Because
so therein lies your answer. The fact that they haven't been identified, if you take Boko Haram, for instance, you know what their ideology is, you have an idea what their ideology is and what they aim, and you can actually identify that mantra and put it on the corner. The herdsmen one, it's largely a speculation. There's no single body you can identify to say this is the group of herdsmen that are killing. So you can't necessarily say what the ideology is. So how do you now prescribe them when you can't identify a single unit or a group of units to say these are the people responsible for these acts?
Sorry, can I just respond to
Yes,
that?
please.
What about if capturing these people first? I mean, security.
Capturing who?
The herdsmen,
The
people,
killer
but
herdsmen.
they're not ghosts. They're not ghosts. They're human beings. And at the end of the day, what you expect the security operatives to do is to capture these people, and from there you can get a
to
lot
fill
more
you on
information.
intelligence.
Intelligence. That's what you do.
Exactly.
I mean, these
No,
people are not
from
ghosts.
the point of intelligence, yes, that's understood, but it's been a problem because you haven't been able to identify.
Is it a problem or the unwillingness of government? That's why we're questioning. Why are you quick to proscribe IMNL? Whereas, remember, they troop and they protest unarmed. It's only when they're more or less they're attacked. That's when they resort to self-defense. I mean, let's not speak the wrong narrative. There are people who witness these things.
Exactly.
They're fully aware.
Yes.
Even when the army took on them, I didn't think stoning army men in procession, require them to unleash AK-47s, weapons, and tanks on them. Come on. There's
All
what
right.
force in taming crowds and all of that.
I see your point. Thank you. Our next story is now going to link to this last analysis. I'll come to you, Gbolahan, for your analysis on the story from Daily Times. Insecurity. Senate charges federal government to mop up small arms, light weapons. They called on the federal government essentially through its security apparatus to mop up an accountable number of small arms and light weapons being proliferated around the country. They say that if it's unchecked, it would go beyond creating fears and anxieties to full-scale anarchy. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, the notion for this was raised by Senator Abu Mora of Benue State, and then the reason for this was because just about a month ago, there were about 25 people that were killed in a community in Benue State, that's Okokolo, in Agatu local government area, where 25 worshippers in church were just slaughtered just like that. And it's reported that they were killed by herdsmen. And then this situation in Benue State has been happening for quite a while now, where there has been a clash between the herdsmen and the farming community. Of course, this is raising a lot of insecurity in that state. A lot of people are worried. So this has led to the Senate wading in on this and asking that the government needs to look more into the proliferation of light arms and weapons in our country. Of course, we know this light arm proliferation has been ongoing for several years. This issue actually started after the Civil War, where we had a lot of light arms made its way one way or the other into the country. And since then, we've been having insecurity issues in the country. We haven't actually been able to address that problem for so long. So what exactly are we asking for now? We're asking that, the police and the security apparatus need to weigh in on this. They need to do a lot more in confiscating a lot of the weapons that are lying about in various hands, and make the country a lot more secure.
Yeah, a former governor of Benue State, Gabriel Suswan, noted that the security challenges cut across the country, and lamented one thing very instructive. He lamented that since the killings have started in the country, nobody has been arrested.
That's the problem. I mean, when we're talking about security operatives, and this is just exactly what Deveo was talking about now, when we're talking about the headsman issue where no one is being apprehended for crimes of this nature, then what tends to happen is that we keep on having the incident, or we keep on having the crime being perpetrated when there are no implications of the crime.
Do you suppose that this problem or this difficulty experienced by the government or security operatives to make an arrest is due to the fact that, a quick reminder here of when the president made a statement insinuating that these attackers or killers per se were foreigners? There was once a statement like that, and this has come up again in the details of this story.
Okay, it's understandable that you say they're foreigners, but foreigners, yes, that the president said they're foreigners, but foreigners are not ghosts. Foreigners in any other sane environment, when they perpetrate crimes, are usually apprehended. So to say that these people are foreigners is not an excuse. If a crime is
a sane environment, borders are porous. How do you identify people that come into your country without a check?
Then we need to put in measures in place. We need to put in security measures in place. We're talking about technology. We need to put in security measures in place. We need to arm, and we need to have personnel by our borders to make sure that our borders are safe. A government that cannot protect the lives of its citizens is failing at its primary objective.
I'll hold you on that thought as we link to this next story about borders. Customs now raking 4 billion naira in semi-border. It seems to be an economy-driven body, do you say, or would you rate this?
Well, I mean, this report came from the Guardian, and this was according to the statement made by the controller of the semi-area commander, that's Mohammed Uba Gauba, who has actually reported the progress that they have made at Semeboda over the last 6 months. That's from January to date. So, and the report is that, just as you mentioned, 4.4 billion has been raised in revenue. They have also done a lot of seizures of items such as bags of rice, vegetable oil, vehicles, food items, sugar, several other items that have been making its way through our porous borders over the while. So it's commendable to see that they've made very good effort in ensuring that they keep our borders safe, at least the semi border, and ensure that, of course, items that shouldn't actually be making their way into the country are prevented from making their way into the country, and the items are being confiscated as well. It's refreshing to see that. And I mean, of course, when we're looking at our economy, we're trying to see how we can grow the economy, stimulate a lot of production, and as such, there's been quite a lot of ban on items. We have currently at the moment now about 41 items that are being banned, and the CBN governor has talked about adding milk onto the list of those items that are also being banned. So, I mean, and the reason for that is because we're trying to stimulate production in the country. If we're trying to stimulate production in the country, we obviously need our customs that guard our borders to ensure that most of these items are not making their way into the country. But the other question that we also need to be asking is, why are these items coming into the country? Is it because the cost of most of all these items that are being produced and sold in Nigeria are at exorbitant prices, and as such,
perhaps
these
demand
prices
is not matching up with the supply?
Or perhaps the demand is also not matching up with the supply. That's another idea as well. So, I mean, we need to tackle the issue of ensuring that we produce a lot more at a more reasonable price, because, of course, when we do that, then we're able to control the number of items that are making its way into the border. But one more comment I'd just like to make. In this article, the commander did also mention that those that are conducting or carrying out such nefarious activities are going to be prosecuted. Of all the items that has been mentioned here that they've confiscated, they were only able to arrest just one person. When we're talking about preventing such crimes, you need to make sure that you do a lot more arrest, and that's what we normally find out. They confiscate items, but they never arrest the perpetrators of such crimes. So we need to do more.
Messages here on Twitter. Ziman says, regarding the headsmen, Mietiala have on more than one occasion claimed responsibility for this spate of killings. Have they been called terrorists? Yomi Akarakiri says, poor analysis on the IMF issues. Spot on. Wow. Okay, thank you. How do you prescribe the unknown? Interesting. Next story, very quickly, let's run through this. Deveo. Police go after Ondo headsmen vigilantes. OPC talks tough. And this is in reaction to the discovery of some personnel of the Islamic movement of Nigeria, or certain people of Fulani origin being caught in Ondo states with identity cards.
Yes, recently, one of the known legal practitioners, Kader Jula, did come across some Fulani vigilante within the state who also had identification cards that had the mark band, that's the Metiala cattle breeders logo, and who claimed that they were working with the police. Eventually, police came. Now, when reaching the force head police quarters, they mentioned the police commissioner should speak on it, and he has spoken that the Ondo State Police Command is looking out for this vigilante, that they're not legal and that they don't have any vigilante working with them that are carrying guns. Well, at the moment, it seems that the police haven't gotten a complete hand of them. Now, the OPC is also reacting from another dimension and saying that, first of all, it's an insult that they would have non-Yoruba vigilante within Yoruba states, right? And that in the north, among the civilian JTF, no Yorubas among them, that they are ready, if there's ever an issue that they need to address, that they could prepare for a 7 days war in 7 years. That's
which is very worrisome.
Yeah, so, and they were then stating that very soon the governors would come together among the 7 states, because I think 2 have outlawed grazing and outlawed grazing completely within the Yoruba states. Now, this is taking a dangerous dimension here, because now people are seeking self-help, not just self-help from an individual perspective, from a regional perspective. Already, if you remember, just a few weeks back, the southeastern governors took a position that the cows should not be moved through the grazing routes via trucks, of which now some institutions, some associations up north now reacted and said all Fulani should move, of which the president said no, they should stay placed. I think what should be a normal practice of beef rearing is taking another dimension, which can divide this country into anarchy, chaos, and wars that we do not want. If the government does not act in time to begin to address these issues, I think we're going to get there, because now different associations are speaking up and they're letting you know that they're good to go.
There's no better time for the umpire to step in and initiate some level of dialogue.
Right.
If you understand. Well, thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Deveo. Last comment here from Okwe from Irawa says putting security measures in place at the borders is not a new talk. The agencies responsible are there to do personal business. I must say there is no readiness to get things right in Nigeria. Is there even a database for people movement in Nigeria? Big thanks to our analysts for joining us this morning. Thank you very much. Gbolahan is our Mr. G Quest on Twitter, and we have Deveo at Deveo Okorie on Twitter. Join us collectively at Smooth 981 FM, and tomorrow morning we continue freshly pressed 981, same time 7:30. Right now we go on a break. When we come back at 8:15, it'll be time for the locker room 981 with Hager.
Thank you.
What time do you wake up in the morning? Me, I'm going to vet. Oh, me too. It's my time to vet. I'm going to vet. This talking is not working for
You
me.
did not toggle.
You did toggle.
That's 1111.
We're going to toggle.
Yeah,
You keep on missing my